Hanumate Namaha. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Shri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jaya Rama. 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 Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha.
Happy Hanuman Jayanti. What a beautiful way to begin Satsang by invoking our beloved Hanumanji, and of course his beloved and our beloved Bhagwan Ram and Sita. Today is such a special and glorious day. The day that Hanuman came here on earth in this form that we just love and adore and revere. And on this day, we celebrate presence, teachings, and his embodiment of love. We pray for that blessing hour. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks.
With this beautiful chanting. We have some that have come in advance, which we'll start with. And then if you are watching this and you have a question and you want to join us live on the screen, there's a link in the chat, and you just click on that and it'll take you into this wonderful technology. Our beautiful Seva team will be able to bring you up live as well. And until then, we have some beautiful questions that our live global Satsang family has sent in from around the world. Yeah, Karen, what's the first?
Well, the first question, we do have someone waiting, so we'll go for the first question first. It says, in the game of Leela, what would be the point of self-revealing the illusion to itself? Because surely, once the illusion is revealed, the game is up, and there's no point in the continuation of the game.
Beautiful. So, first of all, it's important to realize that Leela doesn't actually translate as game. We're not speaking about a game that has winners or losers. We're not speaking about some game that God is just playing with us. Leela is a very beautiful Sanskrit word, and it translates most frequently as a divine drama. And a drama is different than a game. In a drama, we all have our parts that we play and that we need to play with sincerity, with duty. We all were assigned, you could say, a particular role or a series of roles. That in this particular scene, in this act of the universal drama that we are supposed to play, when we speak about our individual dharma, our purpose or our duty, well, these come from that role. Each of us has a different individual dharma. We all have different deep purposes. We have different roles that we are meant to play. Different ways that we are meant to contribute in this drama. So that's important to realize, first of all. And second, when we speak about realization and awakening, it isn't really necessarily the end, because many times we may have an extraordinary experience of awakening, an extraordinary experience of the presence of God, of the truth, of realizing the self, realizing God. And then, as the drama of the ego and the psyche and the roles and the changing nature of the world arise, we may forget that realization. We may drift off back into slumber. Now, it's usually not as deep as it was before. You know, it's like if you had this very, very deep sleep in the night and then the alarm goes off, you wake up. You may be planning to get out of bed. And then you find that 15 minutes has passed and you don't quite know where they've gone, that you've drifted off again. But it's not into the deep slumber of 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. It's a much lighter kind of half wakefulness, half sleep, where we just for a few moments lost that grip on wakefulness. So you can think about it like that. Once we have had that deep awareness, that deep experience, by God's grace, we tend not to fall too deeply, not to be covered in too much darkness or into too much sleep. But we do tend sometimes to drift off again, to drift off a little bit, to allow the ego, the games of the mind, ignorance, Maya, to wrap us up in her veil. The veil of Maya is very alluring. and very difficult to resist. And so we may find ourselves drifting off a bit again into that illusion. And so when the self, that divine self, reveals itself, that swarup of the divine reveals itself to us, that is that moment of awakening, of realization, of samadhi. Because it's not just an intellectual awareness, it's a union, a reunion, you can say. We've come back into union. So a reunion. But then sometimes we forget what we saw temporarily. Or we tune our attention, our sight into something else. And so this is where our personal practice is so important. This is where our meditation, our prayer, our seva, our japa are so important because they keep us awake. They keep us from drifting off back into sleep. So I wish that one moment of revelation was all that was necessary. No more sadhana needed. But while that certainly has happened for a few, there are some masters who have had one touch of divinity, and that's it. I know that happened for Puja Swamiji at 8, when his guru just touched him. I know that happened with Raman Maharishi in his childhood. I know there are these beautiful stories that just inspire us so deeply of masters for whom one touch was it. But for most of us, it's essential to keep that practice going, to keep ourselves awake, because that lure of just 2 more minutes of sleep, just let me lie here another few minutes, is so strong that we tend to drift off.
We have a question from Prashant.
Yeah.
I said it right, yes?
Pranam Sadhviji, it's a great pleasure talking to you, and you are a great inspiration to me. So my question is, I'm deeply interested in yoga, and I learned Kriya Yoga from a reputed organization sometime while I was in Bangalore. So their philosophy was that the Kriya is like a manure, but the seed is devotion. So the seed of devotion needs to flower. That was their philosophy. And there was a related school where they said Kriya is like a manure, but the seed is jnana or knowledge. So you need to use it to find the real I. You need to leave off the fictitious I and find the real I. So the seed is jnana. So my question is, can't Kriya stand on its own? So why should Kriya really be a supplement to, say, devotion or to jnana? Can't Kriya stand on its own such that you just keep doing the techniques and you experience the consciousness and you reach samadhi and you experience the full glory of the self on its own? So that is my question, Sadhviji.
That's a beautiful question.
Thank you.
So our actions, the kriyas that we are doing, these practices that we do, they create the fertile soil. They create the soil in which our awareness can blossom. But something has to blossom there. You can't eat soil. And so if we take the metaphor further and we say, okay, let's look at this really as soil in a field. Well, what do we want? Ultimately, we want fruit. We want vegetables. We want grain, right? We want something we can eat, something that can actually benefit us. And so the actions, the practices that are this soil, well, the soil itself is not nourishing, but the soil is that in which our nourishment grows. And what are the seeds of that nourishment? Because if I want to eat fruit, I have to plant seeds of fruit. So when you spoke about bhakti and jnana, well, what is God? What is divinity? We can say infinity, we can say divinity, we can say soul, we can say spirit, wonderful. But what are those when they manifest here in our lives on earth? How do they manifest? Well, they manifest as love, as truth, as that energy of love, as that energy of truth. But that means that the seeds, therefore, of love and of truth have to be planted. Otherwise, they can't grow and manifest. You can't have a flower or a fruit emerge from soil if there wasn't a seed. It doesn't matter how beautiful and rich your soil is. If you don't actually plant anything in it, nothing will flower. And so these practices are that which ready us to be able to plant seeds of love and of truth, so that that fruit, bhakti, love, devotion, jnana, truth, can flower. So bhakti and jnana and karma, these are the pathways into that divine oneness, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks to us of the ways into God, the ways into that oneness. Bhakti, jnana, karma. So through our actions, not just actions like when we speak of Kriya as practices, but karma yoga is actually a practice through which every action, not just what we refer to as the shat karma or karma kanda, but literally every action becomes a way of getting closer to God. Every action becomes a way of experiencing yoga, union. And every action is that which blossoms out of the awareness of unity. And of course, our bhakti yoga, that experience of union, of divinity, through love, through devotion. And jnana yoga, through the experience of wisdom, of truth. But you've got to plant the seeds. They don't come out of nowhere. So don't worry about that. It sounded from your question like somehow maybe you felt like planting these seeds was going to divert you or going to somehow make the path less straight or less pure or less powerful. No. The whole reason that we cultivate soil in a field is to grow a garden. That garden is not a distraction. That garden is the reason for the soil, for the field. So allow your practices to be ones that ready your field so that your seeds can sprout and grow and blossom in the most fertile, beautiful way. Do we have others who are going to want to come up? Or Karen, you can give us another question that has come in advance. And in the meantime, that she seems to be maybe having some technical glitches. Let's talk about Hanuman. Okay, you're back. No, it's okay. Come. No problem. We will talk about Hanumanji for sure. But let's take a question and then
Yes, we do have someone. Abhishek is going to ask a question. Okay. Abhishek, are you there?
Yes.
There you are. Perfect. Thank you.
Guruma, my question is that in a video you told that in spirituality you have to ask a question, who am I? To advance in spirituality, how to ask the question? I mean, how to start it to advance in spirituality? I am a fresher, a beginner, so how to start?
So first of all, a beginner is the best. Because along the way we start to think that we know something. We start to think that we are something. And that actually blocks us much too much. That awareness, ki mujhe kuch bhi pata nahi hai. Kuch bhi nahi hai. That is actually the most beautiful space from which to embark every moment on our spiritual path. So even if you've been meditating and praying for decades, it's still beautiful to begin that practice of meditation, of prayer, of seva, of yoga, no matter how long you've been doing it, with the awareness, I don't know anything. Oh God, show me the way. Because that allows our slate to be very clear, and it allows that grace to come in. One of my favorite stories is the story of the man who goes to the Guru and he prays to the Guru to give him enlightenment. And the Guru first says, have a cup of tea. The man is like, I don't want tea, I want enlightenment. But the Guru says, yeah, have a cup of tea. And as he pours the tea, he pours and he pours and he pours, and the cup is filling and filling and filling. Now the cup is overflowing and overflowing. And the man says, stop. The cup is full. It can't hold anymore. And the Guru says, your mind is like this cup. You are so full of what you think you need, who you think you are, what you think you've done, that there's no room for me to give you anything. Just as you have to drink the tea before I can give you more tea, in the same way you have to empty yourself of what you think you know, who you think you are, so that I can fill you. So congratulations on being being a beginner, being a fresher, as you said. Fresh is great, right? Whatever we want in life, we want it to be fresh. Could you imagine going to buy fruit and saying, "Oh, I want the really old, like rotten ones"? No, we want freshness. We want freshness in our lives. Every morning when we wake up, we want to feel fresh. We eat things after our meal that we call mouth fresheners, right? So fresh is exactly what we want. So congratulations. And yes, the question of who am I is a very powerful question. But we ask it in a way that is not intellectual. So it's not that we ask it and then we think of every book or every magazine that we've read or every TV show or lecture that we've watched, and we try to remember the answers. It's not that. It's not a question like a question on an exam. It is a question that is a pathway into the experience. So you just keep asking the question. And if answers arise automatically, no problem, allow them, and then keep asking. So for example, if I were asking myself, who am I? And if the first things that emerged are, oh, I'm Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, I'm a sannyasi, I live at Parmarth Niketan, okay. But then I just ask again, because I know that isn't the highest truth. So I don't yell at myself. I don't say, oh, that's so shallow. That's not right. You just ask the question again. Who am I? And then your answers slowly start to become deeper. So then maybe an answer arises. I am a transmitter of love and peace. You don't judge, you don't analyze. You just keep asking the question again. Who am I? And then maybe it's, I am love. And then you just keep asking, who am I? Who am I? And eventually you get to a spot where there's no more words. There just is the experience. And it may happen the first time you meditate. It may happen a month later, 6 months later, 6 years later. There's no guarantee. But don't worry. It's not a race to a destination. It's the spiritual awareness that you are having as you are asking the question, because asking the question means that you understand. You're not your body, right? Because those are the first things people say. Oh, I am this body. I'm a 50-year-old female from America living in India. Well, that's just the body. That's just this vehicle. But that's where most of us start. And so by simply asking the question, it shows that you have the awareness that that is not who you are. And into that space that is created by you saying not this, not that, not the clothes, not the bones, not the muscles, not the bloodstream, not the chemicals and electrical patterns of activity in my brain that we call emotions or feelings or thoughts. Not where this body's gone, not what has happened to it, but just I am. That experience comes when we've removed everything else. That practice of niti, not this, not this. So we remove what we are not, and what we are becomes manifest. Enjoy. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the beautiful, beautiful unfolding and awakening of yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have a question, one more question. It's a little bit long. So it says, I'm living with a partner who is very negative and erratic in his moods because we've been together for more than 20 years and he's been very good to me in the past in many ways. Breaking up in the relationship is not an option. Could you give me some advice on how to cope?
The yoga of relationship. And it is a yoga. Relationship is a yoga. Not only in our marriages or our romantic relationships, but relationship in general is a yoga. It's a coming together of two back into one. And it requires the same level of discipline that our yoga asana practice requires, or that our dhyana yoga, our meditation practice requires. Do not underestimate the power of the yoga of relationship. And again, this is not only in the romantic way. This is with family members. This is with friends. This is with colleagues. This is with neighbors. This is in relationship to every person you interact with throughout your day. That yoga of relationship. So being energetically around negativity is very, very difficult. And it requires a protective mechanism for the self. And there's a lot of different metaphors that you can think of. For me, the best one, the one that works very powerfully for me personally, and that I've shared with many people who have come back with very positive responses, is the metaphor of a wetsuit. Now, if you've ever gone scuba diving, you know that the way that a wetsuit works is very interesting. It doesn't actually keep you dry. What a wetsuit does is, as you enter the water, it allows a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of water to come in. Somehow it has this technology that it just allows this little bit of water in. And then your body temperature heats up this little bit of water around you. And then, again, by some great feat of technology, it keeps out the rest of the water. So there's water that's there that your body has warmed, and it protects you from the ice cold water of the rest of the ocean. And if you can think about it spiritually, of every morning, zipping up your wetsuit in such a way that your own body energy, your heart energy, your spirit energy are going to make positive the energy that's right around you. Because what the wetsuit does, it doesn't warm the ocean. It's not changing the temperature of the ocean. It is simply giving you the ability to be in a warm pool of water in the midst of a cold ocean. And so in the morning, zip up your wetsuit and have a meditative practice. You can do it in meditation. You can do it in the shower, because the actual physical experience of getting wet may work for you nicely with the metaphor of the wetsuit. Zip it up. Zip it up and allow yourself to fill fill it with love, to fill it with joy, to fill it with divine connection. Such that when you move through your home in that space of negativity, you've got this pool of love, of joy, of gratitude in which to move. I think that is the most powerful technique you can use. But also remember the power of simple narratives and the power of just reframing, giving a new narrative. If your loved one says, something that's very negative, or he's criticizing something, or he's worried about something, he's complaining about something, you have the ability to reframe that, to give a new narrative. Now, don't do it in a way where it's like you're telling him what to do, or you're teaching him, or you're the good one, because he's going to feel that will hurt him. And it will make him even more negative. It'll make him withdraw. But you can just model it. So let's say, for example, that your car breaks down on the side of the road, that the two of you are driving someplace, car breaks down, you're not near anyone or anything. You call the tow truck, but it's going to be 45 minutes before they get there, or an hour before they get there. And your partner is very angry, very upset. You may say, well, honey, it's a beautiful opportunity for us to just spend some quiet time together. Maybe the universe has just given us this opportunity to be quiet together, alone, for the next hour. And it's just a very simple, sweet, not don't be negative, you're always negative, cheer up, be positive, not that. Those are worse than useless, because they actually cause harm. They actually make the person you're speaking to feel unworthy, less than, judged, criticized, condemned. They just create more space between you and that person, because now you're the teacher and they're the student. Instead of that, bridge the gap. Create less space. And love is the best way. So just think of ways in which you can very gently model reframing new narratives in love. And who knows? Maybe he'll adjust. Maybe he will be touched by, be impacted by that energy. I imagine he will. Energy is very powerful. But don't go into it with the expectation that he will. Because then you've just got your happiness and your peace hooked in to how he's going to behave and respond. And that's just setting yourself up for disappointment. So do it. Because it's good for you. It's good for you to be able to create narratives of joy, of love, of beauty, of positivity. And if it benefits him and impacts him, consider it a double bonus. And before we end, I wanted to just take a moment and speak about Hanuman, because it is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful holiday. And it's a holiday that gives us this opportunity to tap into the power of love and devotion within ourselves. Hanumanji is this embodiment of love, of devotion. And the miracles that unfold through love and through devotion. And so in our lives, so many of us, if not all of us, are praying for a miracle. Some kind of a miracle, a health miracle, an economic miracle, a relationship miracle, a career miracle, a spiritual miracle, right? Whatever the miracle we're praying for may be, Hanumanji reminds us that miracle is in you. It is your love, it is your devotion to God. Because God is always there. Those miracles are always there. But your love and your devotion are the medium through which miracles happen. Now, it's very important, though, to realize when we speak about this, that this does not mean if you are devoted to God, you are going to win the lottery. Or if you are devoted to God, you're going to get, you're going to get the best job that you've always wanted. Or that your loved ones are not going to get sick and die. Or that you are not going to get sick and die. There's nowhere that God promises us, have faith in me, come to me, and you'll win the lottery. Or you're going to be fabulously successful. Or you'll never experience illness and death, or loss, or failure. No. But the miracle is the miracle that unfolds when we are connected to God. And of course, in the case in Hanumanji, in the Ramayana, the miracles were his ability to help Lord Ram, to help God win the war, to restore Dharma to Adharma, to restore light to darkness, to restore righteousness to lack of righteousness. That was the war. And Hanumanji, through his love, his devotion, and the miracles that followed, was able to be this hero of the war, to do miraculous feats. And in our lives, we may not be called upon to fly across oceans. We may not be called upon to make ourselves huge and then minuscule like Hanumanji did. We may not be called upon to carry the Himalayas, but we are called upon to engage in this divine experience that in many cases is a war. It is still a war. Light and darkness, truth and untruth, dharma, adharma, righteousness, unrighteousness. When we look at what is happening in the world today, hunger, poverty, illness and death, destruction of our sacred planet, our rainforests, our oceans, our rivers. When we look at the way that all too many of our sisters and brothers across the world have to live, that is darkness. That is lack of dharma. And the miracle is us channeling that divine flow. The miracle is us in love, in devotion, connected to God in such a way, as Hanumanji said, I just take Lord Ram's name and it happens. I take God's name and it happens because It's not for me. Hanumanji had no vested interest in terms of his own ego. Hanumanji wasn't expecting to be awarded the Hero of the Ramayana Award in some big gala banquet. He wasn't expecting that. He was expecting only to be able to be used by God as a tool in God's hands, whatever it meant. And that is this beautiful, beautiful message of this day. Let us be used as tools. And the way to be used is through love, devotion, and surrender. And that awareness that it will happen, it is happening through me, with no sense of big or smaller. I actually think in many ways that teaching of Hanumanji, becoming enormous and then becoming minuscule, has that symbolic teaching of, in God's hands, sometimes you feel really big, really important. Sometimes you feel really, 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 really small. And it's all great because it's all in service. So I actually take that teaching as a teaching on the glamour and the lack of glamour, the scope and the lack of scope, the appreciation, the lack of appreciation, the credit, the lack of credit. That is all part of being a tool in God's hands. That is all part of being in service. So on this day, let us remember the glories, the magical, miraculous glories of Hanuman, and the greatest miracle of them all, that love and that devotion, that unswerving devotion that made everything possible. And to pray for that love and that devotion in our own lives. So much love to all of you on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sacred day. Thank you. Thank you so much to our beautiful Seva team. Love and devotion at Parmarth. Our beautiful Seva Nandaji, our Rishi Kumar, our Shishji, and the whole team there. Karen, for the beautiful, beautiful singing, for moderating this so beautifully, and also for your beautiful Seva. All of that you see streaming on my Facebook page all the time. Karen and Sevanandaji are the beautiful channels of that, the beautiful beings of that flow. So deep gratitude to all of you for that beautiful, beautiful love and beautiful devotion and beautiful service. So much love to all of you.
Thank you.
All of you for joining us for our entire cares all of this. The artwork that Renu does, taking the videos that you watch, turning them into these beautiful pieces of art that are just so beautiful. So thank you to all of you for this, and our beloved and beautiful Ganga Nandaniji infusing everything at Parmarth, everything through all of wings, the wings that stem, that flow from Puja Swamiji's grace into so many areas, so many places, so many ways, so much service. My heart just overflows with love and gratitude for you all, especially on the day of Hanuman Jayanti, just to see all of you as such beautiful embodiments of love and devotion and service.
Okay.